Dr. Lou Sella here, and I am live from Redlands, California, where I'm going to have our first Triple Option Football Academy camp of the year, starting today, later on today. Definitely been an exciting time and an adventure for us all. This is in the 11 years I've been traveling the country doing this. This is the absolute latest I've ever done a first camp, but we also didn't have a virus that shut the world down either. So it is what it is. Key points of emphasis for coaching the triple option. And that's what I focus on today, is the key points of emphasis. Here's the key points of emphasis that you need to know to run the triple option effectively. These are the basics. I go through 13 specific, deliberate, intentional situations with my clients. You want to know what they are and how to do them? Become a client. Enough said. But here's the three big keys. Number one is your offensive line has to identify the action key. The action key is the first defensive lineman inside of the read. So it's the first defensive lineman from a three technique in. So the guard, the play side guard, has to identify if he's covered or not. If he's covered by a three technique, he makes a deuce, deuce, deuce call, and that tells everybody else where to go. If there's no three technique, but there's a two technique, he's going to make an ace, ace, ace call. That tells everybody where to go. Same thing, and if there's no three or two, but there's a 2-eye, he's going to make an ace, ace, ace call. Now, if the guard's uncovered, the call automatically defaults to the center. If there's a one technique, the center's going to make an ace, ace, ace call, and everybody knows where to go. And if the guard's uncovered, the center doesn't have a one technique, but he has a zero technique, the center makes a back, back, back call, and everybody knows where to go. So that's the first thing you got to do. So that's number one. Number two is the rule of 3 or 4. Now, I'm going to give you a tip in high school. 80% of the time, the smaller the school you are, it might get closer to 90. You're going to get the rule of 3 probably in 4 out of every 5 games you play. And I will say it's probably 80% of the time. The bigger the school you are, you'll get a little more rule of 4. What is the rule of 3? It's very simple. You've got the two people for whom the quarterback's responsible, number 1 and number 2, also known as the read key and the pitch key. And then you have the defender who's covering the wide receiver. The key is the safety. Okay, there's only so much that can happen. They either have the safety on the play side, which would make it the rule of 4, or they don't, which makes it the rule of 3. So it's that simple. They can either have the safety on the play side, which makes it rule of 4, or they don't, which makes it rule of 3. And the word don't could mean middle of the field, backside of the play, or not at all. But it doesn't matter. The less words you use in teaching kids, especially millennials, the better off you'll be. And especially in these COVID-19 high pressure times, you need to oversimplify the process by using less words. So, number 2 is the rule of 3 or 4. Who identifies that? The play side A-back. Now, the receiver does have a role in that as well, because obviously if there is no safety even on the midline, the receiver knows that he just runs to the end zone because the defender that's over the top of him has to cover him. So the receiver is mindfully aware of the location of the safety. Because if the safety's on the play side, he's going to take 3 steps up the field and he's going to block the safety. The A-back blocks the corner. If the safety's in the middle of the field, he knows he's sprinting up the field and blocking the corner. And if the corner's in a press position, he knows he can run to the end zone because that player's got to cover him. And if the corner's in a press position, but there's a play side safety, he knows he's going to connect with the corner and then go block the play side safety. So he is aware of those things. We cover those today at camp. The final thing is the quarterback's going to identify if it's a blood stun, eagle stun, or easy stun. Now, I can tell you this. 80% of the time you're going to get a blood stun. Sometimes it'll be, if you're at the bigger schoolyard, it'll be closer to 70. Smaller schoolyard, it might get closer to 90. That's when 1 and 2 are on the line of scrimmage. Now, if they decide to put 1 on the line of scrimmage and 2 off the line of scrimmage, but he's right next to him, all that makes it is it's a special ed level blood stun. Okay, people that are serious about defending this don't do that. So the quarterback's going to identify where 1 and 2 are. Are they both on the line? is one off the ball and two on the ball, or are they one and two stacked? And the only time you ever see that, it's like in a 4-3 defense. Because if one and two are, what happens is number one's the defender touching the tackle, and if there's nobody next to number one, but there's somebody behind him, that player defaults to number two. You don't see it much in high school because you don't see a ton of 4-3 defenses where one and two are stacked, and they try to play games where two takes the dive, one takes the quarterback, two takes the dive, one runs to the pitch. You still got to practice it because they can do it, and it's geometry at its finest. So that's the three key coaching emphasis points for running the triple option. This, and I've done, I think, multiple videos on this. This is the most common scenario in high school football, which is you get a zero technique action key. That's the most common scenario. Is they just say, you know what, we're going to put a zero technique over the center and have him drive the center back. That's the most common action key. And then it's a rule of three situation. You've got one and two next to each other in a corner, but no play side safety. So that becomes a rule of three. So the receiver knows he sprints off the ball and blocks the corner, and the A-back loads. And then it's a blood stunt because one and two are on the line of scrimmage. And those are the most. So if you're going to practice anything, you want to practice that situation. I did videos on it, I think, 2 years ago and last year on it. You really want to work against like that triple stack situation. You want to work that more than anything else, simply because the law of averages dictate that's what you're going to see, not necessarily because of the overall defensive structure of the 11, but because you get a blood stunt, which is the most common thing you see, the rule of three, which is the most common thing you see, and in addition to that, a zero technique action key is the most common thing you likely will see. And in addition to that, I mean, my years of spending time with Army, Navy, and when Georgia Tech was running it, that was the thing that they were concerned about the most, because you can't run away from a zero technique action key. I learned that from Todd Spencer. Oh gosh, it was over a dozen years ago. He said that was the hardest thing they have to block is a zero technique action key that drives your center back, or attempts to at least. Your goal is to thwart that. That's why the guard plays such a role in the blocking of the triple option, because he's always going to be involved on the double team in one way or another. Okay, so those are the three major emphasis points for coaching the triple option. Coaches, you want to become a client. I just got a camp today, actually. That's how wild this is. I'm getting people that had called me in the past that they're coming back now that they know they're cleared, ready to go. So give me a call. You become a client. I'll help you win more football games and live a better life. You're done thinking. You're just going to implement the system and go from there. Talk soon.